guess we have to stand closer to one another.
Okay.
Okay, we're now broadcasting live, but I will cut the beginning just to do some editing. Doesn't really matter. At the same time, let me just start the recording. This is the Action English channel, and today we have George Cautherley, who is a very successful entrepreneur based in Hong Kong, and sharing with us some ideas about life after the enactment of the national security law. Of course, things have been quite different from 9.5 months ago since its enactment. And I've known George for a couple of years since, I guess, after the umbrella movement. You are in business, I'm in business, but we want to share with the audience globally about how we can survive under, I would consider it as a big storm, because people that I know since I relocated to Asia, people who are vocal about Hong Kong's freedoms and democracy, somehow most of them are detained or already serving prison sentence. Now, this is quite different from the old Hong Kong that I know. And I made some sort of a prediction, George, a little while ago, that if push comes to shove, in 7 to 10 years' time, half of the Hong Kong population could be overseas. I don't know. Most of my predictions are wrong, anyways.
I hope that one is wrong too.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. So, what is your take on the current situation and some of the people that are now, I would consider unjustly detained? Some of them you know as well.
Sure, yes.
A little bit sad.
It is. It's very sad. I think. I mean, first of all, the issue of national security law, of course, is something that has been hanging over us ever since 1997, and we were, originally requested to enact this through Article 23, and there was one attempt made back in 2003, which was unsuccessful, although it got very close to agreement. And then, for whatever reason, the Hong Kong government never made a serious attempt to reintroduce Article 23 legislation. And I mean, I had been saying to my friends, look, it's much better to have our own Article 23 legislation than to get to a situation where the central government introduces it. And of course, that's what's happened. I mean, many jurisdictions have national security legislation.
Yes, we understand.
And I think over 130 around that anyway have it. So the national security legislation per se is not an issue, but it is the actual legislation, the detailed legislation. And I think the issue that people are very cautious, I'll be very generous and use the word cautious, people are very cautious about the article, the national security legislation, because particularly on the issue of subversion, it's very broadly characterized. So many things could be taken into account in saying to someone or some company that we want to inquire about your situation regarding national security.
Yeah.
And I think this is what worries everyone, business in particular. So I think what people are now doing is observing how are they going to use this legislation. I mean, we were told it would only be used for a very few people in serious cases. We, of course, have had no trial completed yet, and that's going to be what everyone here and business overseas are going to watch to see
Yeah.
how are they going to implement this legislation.
Right.
Are they going to implement it in a very reasonable way, or are they going to use it to catch whatever they want to catch and define things that we wouldn't normally define as being national security issues
Okay.
as a national security issue.
Well, it seems like to me when the chief executive of Hong Kong, Carrie Lam, talked about this would only affect, a small group of people, but this small group has, blossomed into something quite big. More than 100 people were detained already. Unjustly detained, I put it this way. Together, some of the other pro-democracy business people, they are arrested for various reasons. It could be commercial, it could be related to illegal assembly of sorts, right? Because this is what we were accustomed to before having like a June 4th vigil or a July 1st demonstration. Seems like all is gone now. And for those people who are watching from overseas, please type comments if you are watching either from Hong Kong or anywhere around the globe. George, this is the English version of our broadcast, so the audience, it's smaller than the Cantonese one, but we will have this to be broadcasted at D100 radio as well. So you have spent your whole life, I know, almost in Hong Kong.
Yes.
You were born in Hong Kong,
I was
right?
born in Hong Kong, and I lived here until I was 8. And then I came back in 1964. So I've been here ever since 1964.
Right.
So I've seen many things, the 1967 riots, and the 1966 riots, the banking crisis, all this sort of stuff. So I've seen the ups and downs of Hong Kong.
You have seen how,
50 years, 60 years.
You have been almost quote unquote POW as well.
Right, well, I was born in Japanese internment camp.
Right.
In
Stanley.
Stanley, yes, yeah.
Wow. Wow. So you have been around for a long time.
Long time, yes.
Yeah. So if push comes to shove, some people are thinking about some extreme situation that might happen. Beijing definitely is having a lot of tension with so many other countries. Seems like, like people look at the U.S. as well. The so-called strategic patience of the U.S. is actually trying to build up airlines against mainland China. But as Hong Kongers like ourselves, especially to me, I believe that capitalism works best in Hong Kong, and also one country, two systems, the Deng Xiaoping version 1.0 makes the most sense. But to me, it's like buying a genuine Rolex. Right now, you're talking about going to Shamshui-Po, spend $100 Hong Kong, you can buy 2 fake Rolexes. This is how I view, like when NSL is above all laws. That makes me worried too. And recently I just heard that one mild blue journalist, Michael Chugani, just announced just 2 days ago he will stop commenting and also hosting a show. So that makes me worried where the future of Hong Kong holds.
But I think, yes, and for instance, the other day the Commissioner of Police actually mentioned that the media could be subject to national security law.
Right.
And the
Hinting Apple daily, pretty much.
And also the Financial Secretary mentioned that financial security could also be an issue with national security. So we just don't know where this will go. And I think in respect of the people who have been arrested so far, my view is that probably they're trying to test the waters. And many of those people will be released once they have to actually put forward a case, because they'll find that actually they don't really have a case.
But long detainment, though, George, you're talking about.
Yeah, this is the issue is that under NSL, it's very difficult to get bail. Now, a number of them have got bail, fortunately. Some of them I know. But for those who don't get bail, they could be, 1 year, 2 years.
I think
before,
2 years.
Yeah, before the case comes up.
Yeah.
And that is totally contrary to how the law normally works.
Yeah.
And so, in a way, detention perhaps is one of their objectives, to detain you, not finally prosecute you, but at least to detain you to intimidate you for the future.
Serves their purpose anyway.
Yes.
So the way I look at it, which is sad and makes me wonder, like if Deng Xiaoping is still alive, how he would think about it. Like, to me, when I first relocated back to Asia in year 2000, I have a leap of faith. Even though Deng died a few months before the handover ceremony, right? I still believe that it is critical to have an opposition voice, like an Apple Daily of sorts. So businesses could feel more confident to set up businesses in Hong Kong because at least there's some sort of an opposition voice. And if, like what Chris Tang talked about, the chief of police, that some media might not survive, or what Tai Kung Pao talked about, the pro-Beijing propaganda mouthpiece, then Hong Kong would not be Hong Kong.
Well, I mean, the key thing for business is the importance of the free flow of information.
Yeah.
And when you hear these comments, you begin to wonder, are we going down the road where there won't be free flow of information? And therefore Hong Kong will cease to be as effective as it has been in the past in being a center for international business. Because people, want to know information.
Yeah.
If they can't depend on being able to get all the information they need, they will seek to operate elsewhere for their crucial parts of their business.
Two things that could be quite chilling, the way I look at it in the immediate second quarter. One of it is, I don't know, there will be more massive arrests, but moving forward, if investigative journalists want to find, company information of private companies, there could be more restriction. And then if that private company becomes a public company, if they don't disclose certain information and the publicly listed companies still want to attract capital from investors, that makes me worry.
Well, it's very important that there's as much transparency as possible in various public registers.
Yes.
And that they are accessible. I mean, for instance, here, I just discovered recently, I was appalled, you cannot get information on births, deaths, and marriages. There's a registry, and if it's your information, you could get it.
Yeah.
But if you want to get it about somebody else, you can't. I mean, just for people who are interested in genealogy and trying to trace their roots, they can't do that.
You could die 3 times and resurrected 3 times too.
Well, you don't know, yes.
Right.
You don't know what records have been kept.
There are lots of Peter Wongs in Cantonese, right? Whatever.
Well, this is, of course, this is the particular issue of Chinese names, is that there are many totally identical names.
Yes.
And through our ID card system, you can identify each individual. You know which Peter Wong it is, which Wong Kar-wai it is. But if you're going to have that information incomplete, then there's mistakes going to be made, and people may think they are looking at what a certain Peter Wong is doing, and actually looking at what another Peter Wong is doing. And this is just not good for business. And
have you voiced your concern in some shape or form?
Yes. And it's something I'm looking into further, because there are other registries. I mean, apart from the company registry, and there's the land registry, which is also very important. And I think we need to look at all the registries, because they all should be as transparent as absolutely possible. We should look at the standards elsewhere in the world and say, okay, we should beat those standards.
I think it will become more and more difficult for investigative journalists to dig out information for the sake of transparency, for the public good.
Accurate information
Yes.
because they can dig out information, but they won't know in certain cases for sure whether they've got the right person or not.
That's correct. Now, one more even pressing information, it's the Hong Kong Bar Association made some comments about the NSL office would empower the immigration department to block people from coming inside to Hong Kong or let people leave in Hong Kong. And in the Chinese press and also within the social media, people are just crazily trying to interpret what that means, because it seems like there is a deadline on August 1st if LegCo go through the second or third rounds of motion. But then, honestly, if the Hong Kong government wants to stop people from entering or leaving, they can do it now. But it's just that they want to make it into law. Are you concerned that certain Hong Kongers might not be able to come back to Hong Kong, just like the Wu Kai-shi or Wang Dan going to Beijing? They are banned forever, right? Those who participate in the democracy movement in 2019, would they be banned from entering? These are questions that we don't know, and it's kind of there's no right or wrong answer.
I'm aware of this issue, but I haven't actually gone into it in any detail.
Yeah.
But basically, of course, all immigration authorities have the right to stop any non-national coming in and not give a reason for it.
Yeah.
I think what people seem to be concerned about is the freedom to leave, and even if you are a permanent resident. And from what I could understand, one of the issues raised was that, well, if we have to go through a magistrate for a warrant to stop someone leaving, they may leave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go get a court order first,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Oh, okay, I understand that. And maybe they have a point, but then you should have the legislation framed in such a way as within a certain number of days, they must go to the court to get that validated. So you can say, all right, you stop the person, but within 24 hours or 48 hours, you must have the court's approval to do that. If the court doesn't approve it, then they're free to go. You've got to have some check on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be much better if you didn't have it at all.
Yeah.
But I think in the normal course of things, I think almost any country can stop anyone leaving.
Yeah.
But it's to have it properly and legally authorized. I think that's important.
But I'm just afraid that it will become quite kind of arbitrary, and then you have to try your luck. Just like some journalists during certain days when you try to go to Macau, you can't get in, right?
Yes.
So you have to try it before you know whether you are on the so-called most wanted list, maybe temporarily or not. And if you leave, let's say Hong Kong, you go skiing in Japan, go to Niseko, suddenly you find out that you cannot come back. And then all your business accounts are still in Hong Kong. Then that could be horrendous.
Well, certainly, I mean, people are worried about that. That's become quite public. In fact, I'm meeting with a lady next week who is emigrating to the UK, and she wanted to meet me to check some things out. And she said, I've got to go before the 1st of August because I don't know whether I'll be allowed to leave after that.
Yeah.
So you can see it's having a direct effect on people and on their plans.
Yeah. And Josh, you have been having businesses in Hong Kong and China for many decades, right? Well, of course, you and me, who are like Hong Kongers, and you were born here, you don't want to leave unless every morning you're being held at gunpoint, which is not happening yet. But some people are kind of worried that with the NSL, everything is subject to the government's interpretation. That makes people worried.
Yeah, I think there are people who have that feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need to have that feeling. I'm too old. So there's no point in me going anywhere. I'll just stay here and see what happens.
Well, my home is not Hong Kong. My home is heaven. You know, I think. So I know, like, I will reach headquarters someday. I don't know whether it's tomorrow or 30 years from now or 15 years from now.
But you'd like to do it from Hong Kong rather than somewhere else.
Yes. Hope in eternity. That's what we hope for. But definitely, I guess it's important not to be afraid and still being vocal to speak up for truth. I mean, if it is just a law to shut people up, then that's not a good law.
No, it's not. I mean, I think one of the fundamental problems we've had since 1997 is abysmal governance, and government's policy making has not been good. So we still need to speak up and put forward constructive policy proposals. The problem is, will the government listen? It hasn't listened to them so far.
Yeah.
Is there any greater reason for them to listen in the future? But if they don't, Hong Kong will slowly deteriorate, because the quality of your policies is how your community progresses.
And please prove me wrong, George, one more time, that I was predicting in 7 to 10 years' time, half of the Hong Kong population could be overseas. Please prove me wrong.
Well, I think,
whenever you could.
I think you'll be proved wrong simply by the fact that countries can't take even combined half the population of Hong Kong. And immigration to other places is becoming more and more difficult. So a significant proportion of Hong Kong people, even if they wanted to leave, probably would never be able to leave, simply because of immigration policies elsewhere.
And I hope, this is the worst horror show thus far and won't get even worse. I mean, like, detaining so many professionals, young people, this is not, I don't think this should be the original intention of the national security law. But then now I really think there's an abuse of power. And then I just want to read some comments. Thanks to Ed and George for speaking up. So it's not a comment. Well, it is a comment of sorts. But then I hope we can do more and more of these short dialogues. And I think it's important for people to know that we are still believing in Hong Kong. That's why we are here. And then I hope everyone, including those with power, will defend Hong Kong in the right way.
I think it's important to speak out in a constructive way of what we would like to see Hong Kong doing and going, and what kind of policies we'd like to see in Hong Kong. It's very important to continue to do that.
You have big businesses in Hong Kong and China, right?
I still have business in China. Yes.
Yeah. What line of business?
So I'm in the pharmaceutical business in China. So I have a pharmaceutical factory there.
Okay.
But I also have, investments in businesses in China. These are not businesses that I run, these are businesses I've invested in.
Yeah.
So I still have a significant stake in the Chinese economy.
Well, I hope the Hong Kong government would listen to the business sector's voice, those who are more liberal in thinking, those who believe in freedoms. The business sector is very diverse, same as the finance sector. I hope they are more liberal in that sense.
Well, a couple of months ago, I read that the chief executive had a video conference with EU representatives,
right,
in their countries. I mean, they were in their countries on the issue of national security law. And from the reports of the meeting, it seems she didn't succeed in allaying their concerns as to how things might turn out with national security law. So there's still a lot of work the government has to do in order to make international business feel comfortable about the national security law.
Now, one last thing I want to have your comment, George, is the next media group, some people, some journalists, probably some management. What do you think about the situation of Jimmy Lai, and also extend the question to Joshua Wong and also Professor Benny Tai? Some for Beijing mouthpiece says that they need to be severely punished. What do you think?
I think they will be. one hopes that will be done in Hong Kong, and they won't be regarded as such severe cases. They must be dealt with across the board. But I don't have much optimism as to what's going to happen to them. I think they will receive quite severe sentences.
And as a person with faith, I wish miracles do happen. And I hope, God is in our corner. This is all I can say, because this has been too tough for everyone to bear. And what do you think about Apple dating? They want to shut it down, basically, or replace it with, I don't know, like a different shareholder.
Well, if you replace it with a different shareholder, it's tantamount to shutting it down, because that shareholder is going to toe the line. So we will lose an independent voice.
Yeah.
And I rather fear that's what's going to happen eventually. This will be very disconcerting for international business, because they will then see that there's not a diversity of opinion being expressed in Hong Kong.
Well, I hope Beijing and also the Hong Kong government understand the concerns of a variety of people, not just those who are pro-Beijing, but we need the diversity in Hong Kong for Hong Kong to survive. As simple as that.
Well, I think we all want to see Hong Kong survive.
Yeah.
And for Hong Kong to survive, there needs to be a diversity of opinions, so you can get the best policies that will have the best effect on Hong Kong. And I mean, that's what I'm concerned about. That we can have good policies that help Hong Kong develop and expand and be a valuable asset to the mainland.
Yeah. So with regard to the three that I alluded to earlier, I hope there are miracles, and you think there will be severe punishment. I hope I'm right this time.
I hope you're right this time too, yes.
Thank you so much, George.
Not at all, man. Thanks very much.